人數，咁我哋開會啦。
We have a quorum, and I call the meeting to order. First of all, I'd like to ask members to endorse the minutes of meeting held on the 19th of May. The clerk has not received any proposals for amendment. If there are no questions, it is confirmed. And we'll move on to deal with the amendment proposed by members. They are CSAs. Mr. Dennis KWOK has officially submitted CSAs. Mr. KWOK is not here. Never mind. We'll hear from the administration to see if they have anything to add to Mr. KWOK's amendments. We've already discussed it last time, so Mr. KWOK just want to add one section stating that the term of contract is unenforceable to the extent that it purports to prevent the doing of any act which would not infringe copyright. Mr. Raymond Wong is not here yet. He gave us a letter to respond to the administration's CSAs. Perhaps we ask the administration. Last time, you've already taken us through the CSA. Anything to add? Thank you. We're aware of Mr. Wong's recent letter. We've already submitted CSAs that we find acceptable, and we have explained why some others are not acceptable. We have no problems with Mr. Wong's letter. He has raised further points for our consideration, 4 of them, but we will make a decision only after we've gone through them. Mr. Wong's views are very clear. They are set out in his letter. Ms. Ho, at 2 o'clock today, gave us some CSAs. When she arrives, we'll ask her to present her amendments to us. Mr. Wong has just entered. Well, let me say this. You have set out your views very clearly, Mr. Wong. The administration said they would look into some of your points. Well, he's already said it already, but you weren't here. He said it that he would look into it. Yes, we would go back to look into it. Let me remind you about the timetable. On the 6th of October, the administration will make preparations and make and by indicating to the House Committee. There will be an HC meeting on the 9th, and the deadline for notification of resumption of second reading is on the 13th of October. So if members would like to make any amendments that they would have to notify before the 19th of October. Resumption of second reading in Council will be the 28th of October. May I remind you that if you have amendments to make, please submit them as far as possible in July. So we'll see if there is a need to have another meeting in the second half of September to go through your amendments. Otherwise, we will make a report to the House Committee in early October. If you make your amendments in July, we will have time to have a discussion. Mr. Sin Chung Kai. If we can have a meeting before we go to House Committee, it would be a good idea. We need some time to look into members' amendments before we decide whether to support them or not. It will be preferable to have another meeting in September before the next House Committee meeting. The deadline for notification, the deadline for amendment is the 19th of October. Please do not submit them on the 18th. Otherwise, we won't have time to have any discussions. We have quite some time. The summer recess is coming. I ask members to submit the amendments as soon as possible so that we have some time to discuss it and the administration will have time to respond to it. We will send you letters to ask you if you think there is a need to have another meeting. Mr. Ray Chan. Of course, if our views are unanimous, then we can make these suggestions in the name of the committee. I am working on an amendment in relation to fair use. There are some new documents. We may not go into details, but I'd like to ask the administration whether they would respond to these submissions. One is from Progressive Lawyers Group, and the is also about fair use, and the other one is from Copyright and Derivative Works Alliance on UGC. Administration, do you know what documents they're talking about? Yes, we've read the documents. Well, we have had a lot of discussions on these issues in the past 20 meetings or so. And when it comes to fair use, yes, I'm aware of the submission, but we've been using in Hong Kong fair dealing to deal with exemptions. It's some smaller countries and the US that use fair use, but for other countries, say for example European countries, they use fair dealing. There was a consultation about whether to adopt fair use. That was in 2004. And the conclusion was that it's too wide and it may not be suitable for Hong Kong, and it's mentioned in previous meetings. Any other questions? Ms. Mo. Thank you. In relation to fair dealing and fair use and the differentiation, I think most people don't really understand. If there is a suspected infringement, it's all right under fair use, but under fair dealing, then the case will have to go to court. How do you make the distinction? Perhaps we can use the example cited by Progressive Lawyers Group by someone saying that I'm just playing and singing a pop song to wish a singer happy birthday, and I upload the clip onto YouTube. Well, technically it's an infringement, but there is no profit generated. So under fair use, then actually there is no contention. I think it is not whether the case will go to court or not. If you think your rights have been infringed, you have the right to take the case to the court. It's just that the principle applied, that it will whether it is fair use or fair dealing. And that is not necessarily related to whether the court will be involved. Even for general exemption, if I say that is for education use, and that is not a fair dealing. But if some people think that it's an infringement, the case can still go to court. So it's down to whether there is a consensus. If there are disputes, the case may go to court. There are some examples cited by the Progressive Lawyers Group, and we've already covered them. Say, for example, if someone's singing and playing a song and is uploaded onto YouTube, YouTube has already have some special arrangements to allow people to upload clips of copyrighted songs. So there is no need to involve the law to specifically say that they are exempted.
Let me follow up. Mr. Wong is saying that in 2004 it was already decided that fair use is difficult to handle, so the government has already decided to use fair dealing, but it's now been 9 years. Can you explain again, why is it that now, 9 years later, you still insist that fair use isn't applicable to Hong Kong and that we should stick to fair dealing? It's not 9 years, it's now 11 years. Yes, understood. Now, Ms. Mo, on these issues, they have already been discussed in past meetings. We didn't intend to deal with these issues. Maybe we will let the official explain and then end this matter here. Now, fair use alters the arrangement regarding exemptions. Now, in Hong Kong or US, Australia, or New Zealand, or EU even, now, if there's an exemption of copyrights, it's specified clearly in the law which areas, education, research, or parody, or comments, then these are the specific areas for exemption, and that's the way it's done in many jurisdictions. But fair use is different. It's okay as long as it's fair. So it fundamentally alters the arrangement on copyrights. So we think that the grounds applicable then are still applicable. Now, we think that this is the appropriate arrangement. Of course, anything can be changed, but if there's going to be change, we need strong grounds, and there must be public consensus. May I ask one last time, if it's felt 11 years ago that change is not appropriate, and also 11 years later it's still not appropriate, can you tell me fair dealing will never apply in Hong Kong, right? We can't say that. Now, the society may change, so the copyright system may also change. So from time to time, we will review the copyright system to see it fits the current circumstances. And I already said that we will have a new round of investigation or looking into the matter. Now, whether copyright owners or users raise new issues, we will deal with them. Now, we will have to deal with this fair use issue under that kind of framework. So will members have committee stage amendments in near term? If not, we will have two meetings, either 15th of July or 21st of July. Or actually, both dates, we will cancel them if there are no amendments. Now, well, maybe you should tell us that we will definitely have September, a meeting in mid-September or October. I already said that. So if there are no points raised, there are no further matters, declare the meeting closed.